We're not going to be using him again. Welcome to Simplified Sparky Marketing. I want to speak about what you think the client thinks they don't think. Try and digest that one. I'm going to tell you a few stories of how I fucked up in my electrical journey over the years, and a few stories that stand out to me where I fucked up. The first one was installing a range hood ventilation system. So what it was, it's a pretty easy job. I just had to run the flexi duct on top of the kitchen cabinets, drill out through the walls. So it was brick veneer, so timber on one side and gibrock, and then brick on the other. So the job was pretty straightforward, but I measured everything up, cut out the hole on the inside, and then drilled out to the outside. And then I went around to the outside and cut a vent, drilled out a vent into the brick. And I had to chop out a little bit of timber to put the aluminium vent on the wall to make it all look schmick. And then when I did do that, I went a little bit too far and I went into the neighbour side. So there was a fence there. Basically, it was like a mirror image of the two houses together. So it was a duplex, I suppose you call it. And the fence was like the divide. So I put up like this little aluminium vent. And where I cut, I cut their timber a little bit too much for the divide, but I put up the vent and I didn't realise that I got down off the ladder of I was gone into the neighbour's side by literally 50 mil. It was fucking nothing. So I was like, maybe they'll all be cool with this. And I went to the client and brought him out and showed him the situation. He was a bit panicky and was, I don't know about this. So that was fine. I finished the job, I got everything done, and the neighbour wasn't back yet. They were out and about or working or whatever. So they're like, we'll just ask the neighbour and So I got the invoice paid and whatnot. Went on my way, and then the client messaged me, pay the invoice, and then the client was like, the neighbour's not too happy if we can change that. And like an ostrich, I buried my head in the sand and kind of just avoided the job like the plague. And I didn't want to go back to it. I was going to actually just not go back and just go hiding. And I was like, fuck it, I need to go back. So I left it off for 2 or 3 weeks and just made up excuses. And then I ended up going back, and I was like, fuck it, I need to do this. I need to wow them. I need to blow the socks off them. So what I did when I did leave was I took a bit of the brick that I knocked out and there was paint on it. So I was like, okay, I'm going to match the paint with the new bit of timber I put in. And I went to Bunnings and got the paint matched up. So they mixed up the paint and matched it near identical. So I had to put this new runner in. It was maybe like a meter long of timber. So made timber, became a carpenter. Or I got timber and became a carpenter and fixed all the timber up, redid it, recut it, repainted it, put it all back in, moved the vent over slightly and put it in. And the client was so fucking grateful, and it didn't matter about my fuck up. They were just absolutely ecstatic of what a good job I did repairing it. And that client, since I've gone back to them for numerous things, and they're lovely people, and I have gone back to them for a couple of $1,000 jobs. And again, if I'd gone running and gone hiding and not fixed my fuck up, I wouldn't have got that income off of those people. That was one of the ones that stands out. Another one was one in Balmain, and there was a few things to do in the house. There was extra PowerPoints and a few bits and pieces, and it was just a disastrous job. So one of the PowerPoints had to go into the kitchen island, and I was like, I can maybe get underneath the floor. The floor has gone in. I tried to fish underneath, so drilled a hole, couldn't get underneath, played around with that for about an hour, and it wouldn't work. So I basically tell the client that I can't get the PowerPoint over there. I did warn him though from the start, to be fair. I was like, there's a possibility I can't get over there, but it feels like I can. So gave it a go and couldn't get across. So that was one thing. So then the best bit of it was the house had a Clipsal Wiser system doing the lights and a few little gizmos around the house as well. So I think at the time Clipsal Wiser was fresh, and it was all the rave to install that. At the time, it was like the cheaper version of CBus or whatever. So I think they had some difficulty with the blind controller in the main room, which there was like it was like a big double doors. There was maybe 4 doors, but they folded and went out. So there was 3 blinds covering those. And what had happened was the controller for those had cacked. So another Sparky had come in and he had fiddled with the controller and replaced it with just basically a basic up-down button. What used to happen was they'd push the up button or push the down button and it would trigger and it would just pull the blind up or put the blind down. or they could go to the app on their phone and click a button, it would go up and it would go down. But because the module was removed, they wanted a new system put in that would just basically do the same thing. They pushed the button, it went up, pushed the button, it went down. So I was like, brilliant. I'll just use Salpixie's smart controller and they can use it on that. Same thing, but just different app or whatever. It was the first time I used it and I hooked it all up. And whatever happened, the blinds started going at different speeds and they basically went out of whack. Now, I was like, what the fuck is going on? So I was like, okay, sweet. I'll just disconnect each motor, realign them and get it lined up again. And I was stressing out and I was freaking out because it wasn't my playing field. It wasn't my wheelhouse. I was like, I don't really know what the fuck I'm doing here. I'm winging it. So I ended up getting them slightly, like I played around with it, fixed them for about an hour. I got them all aligned again and then went to move them again and they all fucked out of whack again. So I started to panic and I was moving one up, one down, one over, one down, one up, one down. And 2 of the 3 blinds stopped working. And this is where I fucking really panicked because I was like, I fucked up. I've burnt out the blind. And I just could not align them. And 2 of the blinds were now not working. And then after about 5 minutes of infuriating fucking didn't know what I was doing, was like, hang on, maybe it's like an overload has popped and it will come back into play when the motor cools down because I was going up and down so much, which sure enough it was. It kicked back in after a while, but I had to ring one of my mates who's a guru at this and he was able to guide me on how to actually put an Allen key into the motor and adjust them up and down manually, which was something you learned every day as a school day. And I readjusted and got it going and basically just put it back the way it was. So I spent 4 hours fucking around with that. But in the middle of it, the client came in and he was a nice guy. Like he could see me struggling, but he was like, this is a bit of a shit show. And I was like, thought he was pointing at me. And instantly I was like, the blinds. And he's, the blinds. And he was cool about it. And I just basically said, look, I'm going to put it back the way it was. If you want to engage like a specialist with the blinds, I would engage them because they're just going to do a far better job. I thought this would get your issue solved or whatever, but it didn't. So I spent about 4 hours playing around with those blinds that I didn't fix in the end. I basically probably made them a little bit worse than what they were. So I sat into the van at the end of the day and it was genuinely one of those days where I fucking just got into the van. I looked at what I was doing and I was like, I don't want to be a Sparky anymore. It was embarrassing. It was just a very shit day. And I left that job, invoice for what I did. And I was like, he must think I'm the biggest fucking idiot going. Then about 3 months later, he called and he had an issue with his hot water. So I went out there. I was like, fuck, this is weird. I was like, I thought I would have been deleted from their system and been like, this guy's an idiot. He can't handle blinds, so he's not going to be able to do hot water. So I came out there and it actually was an issue with their whole power circuit. So it was the hot water is a gas system. So it was just plugged into a power point, which was one of their power circuits in the back end of the house. What it was, an extremely damp wall had corroded the power point. So I was able to find that in about 20 odd minutes. Got the hot water back up and running again. And the guy was like ecstatic and so grateful. And I was like, whatever he thought before, that reputation is now redeemed. And I think what we think the clients think, they're not actually thinking. And I think that goes as well with price-wise, is a big lesson to take away from this, is like, you might look at something you're offering. It might be an EV charger, it might be an RCBO, it might be a downlight you're installing, or maybe a heap of downlights in the house. And you're like, oh, that's too expensive for the client. Well, what they're thinking is they may not care too much about the price. It's more so the problem. They might be like, fuck, I just hate these lights. If somebody puts in down lights, I will be so happy if it costs 10 grand. I don't care. And I think a lot of psychologically, we go into a lot of quotes and we think that, you know, this is too expensive. They're going to think it's too expensive. And look, there are clients and there's a lot of telltale signs with clients before you actually do the work, if they're a tight ass. But some people genuinely are lovely people and they just want the best product, or they want the best thing done. And same goes for when you fuck up. It's not about when you fuck up. It's about when you pick up the pieces after dropping the ball. And just one last scenario I'll give you is, I was installing a 250mm fan into a bathroom recently, and it was ridiculous. It was a heritage ceiling, so it was slatted up top with old school timber, and then it was rendered on top. So just chunky, raw, old school fucking 100-year-old ceiling that I was like, shouldn't be doing this. So I was using the Recipro saw to cut it out. Is that the correct name for the fella that goes in and out? I don't know, I'm not a carpenter. And I was chopping around it, and it was going and going, and then the timber wobbled a bit, and next thing, a chunk of the ceiling, probably like 150 mil of render, just fell down outside of the circle I had to play with, and I was like, fuck. So then I was like, I got to pick up the pieces here. So I was coming back the next day to do something anyway. So what I did was put everything else on pause, I was sent it to the client, showed him the story, and I goes, look, what I'll do is I'll go to Bunnings, get some stuff to fix that. I'll get that fixed for you, and you won't even notice it. So what I did was I got a bit of timber, screwed it down to the other existing slatted timbers on top to secure it, put in some base coat into the slats, and then I put some of the actual tape that you use for jib rocking. I became a jib rocker. Put some tape across it, and then rendered across that again. And then I left that. I was able to sand that down. And then the next morning, I went there, put base coat on, or the top coat. And then went, did something, came back, sanded it down like half an hour, 40 minutes later, maybe an hour, and then I gave it a lick of, I actually brought paint as well, so I painted it white, and then took a blowtorch to it, dried it quickly, and then painted it, gave it 3 coats of paint, and it was uncanny. It was actually some of my proudest patchwork ever, and the guy was so distracted with how good the patchwork was, he almost forgot about the electrical work. He was just like, that's amazing. So again, it's not about how you fuck up, it's about how you pick up the ball after you drop it. And that is the same goes for staff. And if there's a fuck up on the job, it's not the end of the world. It's just about how you wow the client back again by picking up the pieces. And recently, one of my members as well received a 1-star review for something stupid that a staff did. And just with a very simple strategy that I told him, he was able to turn that 1-star review into 5 stars. And it's all about turning it on its head, not running like I did at the start. And I think this is why I love this podcast, is I'm going to be vulnerable as fuck, because just like you, I'm an electrician and I have made fuck ups, and we all make fuck ups, but it's not about how you fuck up, it's about how you pick up. There is links in the description, and if you're not on the emails already, you're missing out as well. If you're enjoying the podcast, there's an email link below. The doors are opening for the Simplified Sparky mentorship as well on the 8th of the 7th, which is only a week and a bit away, I think. And I'm going to be very selective with it also. If you're interested, have a look at the YouTube video underneath. Sign up to the emails, and if you've any queries or questions, head across to Instagram and shoot me a DM, and I'll catch you next week.